I'm at a beach house and down in the basement, so everything's
Madam Chair, you're live.
Thank you. Welcome everyone to the April 25th Commission meeting for the Arts and Public Places, City of Annapolis. We are calling to order at 7:13 p.m. Joe, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Genevieve,
Here.
Jim,
Here.
Joe here, Barbara,
Here.
Carissa is not here. David,
Here.
oops, did he go? Oh, there he is. Cynthia
Present.
and Lynn is absent.
Okay, at this time, I would like to ask for a motion for approval of the agenda for this evening for April 25th.
Genevieve, I'd like to mention.
Oh.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Barbara. Do we have a second?
It's David, a second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. The minutes were sent out by our secretary, Joe Lucchesi. Did everybody have a chance to review them? And is there any questions or comments on the minutes? If not, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes from March 28th, 2023.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Joe.
Second.
Thank you for the second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll jump into old business, please. May we have an update on Poet Laureate?
Thanks, Genevieve. Hi, everyone. April 30th is the last day of Poetry Month, and Maggie will have her last event as our Poet Laureate at the William Pega House on Sunday. It's called Poetry in the Garden, and that'll be from 2 to 3 if you'd like to join us. April 30th also marks the deadline for the applications for our next Poet Laureate. And we'll be getting together in May with Cynthia, Gwen, and Maggie to go over the applicants and then conduct interviews. So hopefully by next meeting, we'll be able to give you at least the name of the finalists. And that's the update for now, unless Cynthia has anything else to add.
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Thanks.
Are there any questions for Barbara or Cynthia regarding the Poet Laureate?
No, but I just say I can't believe it's already been a year. It's kind of amazing.
I
And
know.
she did so much.
She has. She's been wonderful.
Mhm.
And she's agreed to help mentor the next person. So we'll have some sort of continuity in terms of how we have events and get the word out to the community. So she's been really great about outreach.
That's great.
Perhaps we could have a citation drawn up for Maggie.
Yes, definitely. That would be great. Genevieve, how do we start that? Should we go through Brian or do you generate that?
You could ask Brian, he'd be a point of contact, or you can just call Mitchell directly because she is the one that drafts the citations. So
Okay.
I'm the chief of the communications, sorry, for the mayor's office, Mitchell Stevenson. So
Right.
let me know which way you want to go. I can get Mitchell's info for you if you need it. I think you've had contact with her though about Poet Laureate. So
Yeah, I have. So I'll reach out to her. Thank you. And I'll copy you and David.
wonderful. Thank you. Anything else regarding the Poet Laureate update?
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So we'll move on to gallery updates, and I was looking for Audrey's information. She will come at the next meeting. I swear to God, promise. We will put her on the agenda. She'll be here. The May and June showing is sorry, she sent me something else here. I will be posting it on Facebook soon, but it is, trying to open up the document, forgive me. The Shiles Studio is presenting. So, that will be running from May 5th until June 30th, and that's at the Pip Moyer Recreation Center. And, then next month she'll come and she will talk about the remainder of the schedule for this year. Proposed mural updates. I don't have any proposed murals. We can talk about this later, but we might just move this section to just be something that we discussed during applications, because technically it would be an application issue instead of just an update. So there isn't anything going on for murals at this time. Grant updates, Joe?
Not really, not directly, although this is actually probably more relevant for something else, but I did hear from Ryan from the Arts Council. And do you know about this public arts registry that they're setting up, the State Arts Council, to kind of match up public artists with public art projects? So potentially relevant for us down the line.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing that they're doing.
Yeah.
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 Excited to see that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we should see if he can like put together some information and so we can pass it out to everybody and send it out by email so everybody can see what they're doing.
Mhm.
Let's see. Public outreach updates. There haven't been any meetings lately, so there isn't anything there. Just the continuation of, leaving our door open for collaboration with the Arts Council, Visit Annapolis, and the State Arts. So there's still possibilities, Maryland Hall, all of the entities, Arts District, and so forth. So, but there isn't any updates for that at this time. Move into the budget. There isn't any new additions for checks written. There are a few things that are still floating out that will be paid in addition to the stuff that we approved last month. They haven't been invoiced yet, so those are not reflective as checks being cut yet. The invoice has to come in first, and then all the information is submitted to the city, and then finance approves the information or asks for more information, then they cut a check. So the three things that we approved at the last meeting are not reflected as to coming out of the budget report that I sent out, but they are shown on the spreadsheet that I generate to show you what we have in our funding. Almost everything is paid except for the Dinner Under the Stars, which was submitted, and we're trying to figure out why that check wasn't cut, but the First Sunday check was cut. They're working on that right now. The Chesapeake Children's Museum, that the grant that we gave her for $6,000, that hasn't been paid yet, as well as the Downtown Annapolis partnership for the Christmas ornaments and the pumpkin carving. That hasn't been cut. Annapolis Film Festival just sent their invoice because the film festival just ended, and that check is waiting to come out as well. A recent payment to Audrey Lee for the gallery coordination of $500 is subjected to come out still. So put my glasses on so I can read. That brings us to $29,500 that still needs to be paid out from the balance of $132,619 that is shown available for our spending. There is also $10,000 that we granted last month that hasn't been billed yet. So with that, plus the $50,000 that we've held for Westgate Circle, and the $30,000 for the summer programming for City Dock summer concerts, and the 10,000 a year for the budget maintenance, that leaves us with $2,969. And that is what we have now and going into May and going into June. So I talked to finance this week and asked them when our next payment from the hotel tax is coming. She said it should be delivered towards the end of May. Sorry, it's not March, May. They are projecting that the fiscal year 2024 will be about $156,000 for arts and public places. That's what they're looking at the deposit to be in May. It may not happen until mid-June, but the hope is that at the end of June, we'll have funding in order to appropriate to possible applications. So, but at this time, we are under $3,000 to spend. So in a way, it's a great thing. We spent almost, $200,000. We gave it out to the community to support art. So well done, everybody. We appropriated the funds and we will see. So that's where we are. Any questions on the budget?
Yes. Looking at your spreadsheet, there are several that are showing that were approved. For example, I saw the Dinner Under the Stars and I understood your answer to that, but it's really unacceptable that we approved something as far back as September of last year. According to the minutes, it would have been in October, and they haven't been paid yet. What is that all about?
Okay.
I'm particularly speaking about the Chesapeake Children's Museum.
Okay.
She confronted me about this and said, I can't believe it. What's wrong with you guys not paying me? You promised to pay it way back when. And she told me the date, back in September.
Okay.
What's the
answer?
story?
I'm going to answer your question. Okay. So a lot of it depends on when they submit their invoices. It also depends. So like if it was a performance, we can guarantee money, we can allocate money, months in advance to a performance, right? So even though our minutes say like we approved this in June, the performance may not happen until November. So we have to keep that in mind. Now, as far as the Chesapeake Children's Museum, invoices have to be submitted. The city won't just pay it because we have allocated it. There's a checks and balance system. The city has to have an invoice that comes in order for them to pay it. So that does happen a lot of times where we don't get the invoices right away, which is a case with a couple other things. But with the Chesapeake Children's Museum, we're trying to figure out why the check hasn't been cut yet. So Michelle down in Rec and Parks does do our invoicing, and she did put it in. Everything was submitted. I don't know. I don't have an excuse. I don't have a direct answer about it because I don't work in the finance department. I don't cut the checks. I don't have direct access to the money. None of us are employees of the city. We're volunteers and we're appointed by the mayor. So at this point, it is on the side of the city in finance to cut the checks, and they're looking into it and they're trying to figure out where they are. So we're trying to stay on top of it. Every month, Michelle and I wait for the budget report to come to us because that's the only way that we know what checks have been cut and what checks haven't been cut. And then we go through the list and we figure it out. And we're like, okay, well, we submitted this, this, and this, but there isn't a check shown being cut from our budget. So that's where we are right now.
What date did she submit her invoice?
I would have to look it up. I don't know.
But it was last year. And the problem is
the vote was last year, but I don't know when we received the invoice.
Let me finish. We are now getting ready to go into May. It's at least 5 months, but it's really more like 7 months past due. At least 7 months past due.
I understand your frustration.
We can't tolerate that from the treasurer, and we ought to be calling the treasurer and demanding that be paid. and he needs to share, or she, or he, I think, needs to shake, or she, excuse me, needs to shake it up and, you know, get that money to the vendor that we, or the person that we agreed and voted for. Some of these people, she doesn't have a lot of money, and it's
Okay.
very difficult for a program like that to operate if we promise some money and then don't deliver that money. And I'm really unhappy about it. And I think the treasurer needs to be called on the carpet by the mayor to get that taken care of tomorrow. Thank you.
So the
I know
finance
it's your
department
fault,
working on it.
Genevieve.
Thank you.
I'm just suggesting we need to raise the decibel level with the city staff.
So we are working on it, and the finance department is looking into it, and Michelle is doing her part on her end. So it's being taken care of, and hopefully the checks will be cut soon. And I'll keep you guys posted on that.
Will you let me know when that's been paid?
Yes, I will.
I'm
As
going to
soon
be
as-
badgering you every week if it isn't.
Well, you can badger me all you want, Jim, but I don't have anything
Then
to
I'll go to
do.
Michelle, or I'll go to the treasurer in person and say, we need to have this taken care of. But it needs to be taken care of.
Yep, and they've been contacted, and it's
Well,
in the
then
process of being
then-
worked out.
We need to shine the light on the fact that they're foot dragging, taking care of our vendors.
I'm not really sure, like publicly shaming them, Jim, is the way to get our checks faster. I think maybe more like staffing the city fully like it should be would be the way to get the process to move faster. But at this point in time, like I don't have any control over the staffing of the finance department. So we're working on it. We're doing what we can. I understand the frustration. I'm not pleased with the timely efforts at all, but on our end and on the Rec and Parks end, everything has been done thoroughly the way it was. And sadly, it's kind of been an ongoing thing. So I'm going to move on to David though, because we have other questions, and Rosalind also would like to make a comment. So go ahead, David.
Cool. Can you guys hear me? I'm sorry, I'm sharing the internet with 18 other people. Just curious. I know, like with our budget for I work with, it's almost best to spend all your money and be over a little bit, because if you have anything left and they come back next year and say, well, you were 300,000 or 100,000 or $3,000 under your proposed budget, why should we give you blah blah blah? I mean, just a thought, a food for thought in terms of, you know, as we get through the next couple of months, maybe we should spend that money, or I mean, I don't know. I don't, just a thought. A question to the group in terms of, you know, how the city views the budget process, and if we have money left over, does that look bad or good on us going forward?
So technically, yes, we could hold a spending vote, even though we only had $2,969 in our account, and promise somebody, let's say, $30,000 out of the next fiscal year spending. I will say personally, I'm not comfortable with that until I know that the funds are actually coming in and what the funds are. But yes, we could do that. And then, but the check again wouldn't get cut until the funds were in there. I'm not really worried about city council saying that they did it to us before, but now that the funding comes from the hotel tax and not from the mayor's budget, I'm not really that much concerned about the city council trying to take our money away from us, because they would actually have to change legislation. And that's a process.
Okay.
Like you have to have the senator willing to open the legislation in order to change it again, and the county executive. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it could. But considering the fact that we are appropriating almost all of the funds, I just think
Okay.
we could spend it to every penny. I personally am not comfortable spending money that we don't have in the account yet.
No, I'm
But-
not saying go over budget, like, hundreds of $1,000, but say, someone came in with us for a proposal for, $3,000 and we're $100
Right.
over kind of thing.
You're a couple dollars over. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't, I don't want to spend another $30,000 that we don't even know we have yet. That wasn't a question. I just want to make sure they're not going to come back at us and say, you had $5,000 up in your budget. Why do you need all this money, kind of thing? But
Yeah.
okay, as long as we're protected by the legislation, I'm cool. It's just a question. That's all.
And the thing to remember too is that, there is a portion of that money that technically isn't spent yet. We did a vote and allocated it, so there's $90,000 that we have. as a buffer that we could pick from, but that's 50,000 for the Westgate Circle. That's 10,000 for maintenance of our current pieces and 30,000 for the summer program. As it looks
Right,
right now, I probably will not need that full 30,000 anyway for the summer programming down at City Dock. So that will return back. So we probably will have a little bit more funding in May before July 1st comes in. So.
Got it. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, Jim, I'm going to have Rosalind come.
Yeah, okay, I'll be patient, but I do want to have one more
And
comment.
I have a
Okay.
comment too, if it's a quick one.
Okay, hold on,
when
Krista.
she's done.
Well, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Genevieve. I think you pretty much addressed it. I just want to be clear, who is the treasurer that Jim, you're referring to? Are you talking about just finance, or is there a treasurer for the committee?
No, it's the city of Annapolis treasurer who handles our money, which, by the way, my comment would be that we should have our own checkbook and not deal with the city because they're so slow in making payments. But, I know you're going to give me a bunch of legal rumble. But Rosalind, it's the city treasurer who's in charge of the finance department.
It'll be
And
finance director. Yeah.
finance
Okay,
director.
thank you. So, and I'm not going to give you a bunch of legal mumbo jumbo. I don't know that in code you all can do it, but that's above my pay grade. So I'm not even going to speak to that. But I do know that Michelle has put in all the invoices, as you mentioned, Genevieve. And David, this year, you all's budget, your 155 and some change thousand or whatever it's going to work out to be, will be in recreation and parks budget. So you all will essentially have a line item, because we are paying all the invoices and we're the fiduciary agent for you all. So you won't be able to overspend that by $100 because then you're into our budget, but you can spend every cent of the money that's been allocated towards you all or for you all, and that's not a problem. And then Joe, can you add me to the agenda, to the minutes list and the agenda list that you send out, because I hadn't been receiving them, but that's okay because I'm new, and that's probably why I hadn't been receiving them. So thank you for all of that.
Yep, I'll make that update.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much, Rosalind.
And welcome aboard, by the way.
Oh,
And-
now you want to welcome me, Jim. You just drug us through the mud.
I'm happy. I'm very happy you're where you are. I'm glad you're here. We needed you.
Thank you. I'm listening in, so I'm here. If you have any issues, feel free to email me prior to the meeting so that we can have answers for you. But Michelle did tell me that all the invoices that we've received have been put into the system, and we're just waiting for them to be paid. And Genevieve, thank you. You did an excellent job kind of explaining the process. And so while it may seem it's been 7 months, it hasn't been a true 7 months because there's time for the invoices. And sometimes people don't invoice us correctly, where we need certain things corrected and changed, and we can't pay unless it's a certain way. So Michelle in my office has been on top of this and has really just done an amazing job in trying to push these things through, in addition to our other duties. So thank you for that, Genevieve.
We appreciate her greatly. And I will say that when it used to go through different channels, and since Michelle took it over, it has been much quicker. So I know it may not feel like that, but it really has, trust me. So any other questions and comments on the budget?
I did have a question.
Go ahead,
and
Krista.
that was whether or not Ashley could help to expedite the one for the Children's Museum. Is there anything like that legal can do to inquire to kind of give it that special to get cut, or not?
I don't think so. Again, I think,
Okay.
you're just talking about implied pressure. I think it's just the execution of figuring out why. Because we submitted a bunch of invoices at one time, and half of them got paid, and like 4 of them didn't. So it's we're not sure why, and they're looking into it, and it
Okay.
it's not like somebody's purposely holding it. It's just probably an oversight, and we're gonna get it fixed as soon as we can. So
Yeah. And then we get the report on as to why it was delayed. That'll be back to us, right?
hopefully, yeah, we'll.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll come back, because when Michelle gets information from
Okay.
finance, she shares it. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, overlooking, this is just my opinion, overlooking one or two invoices is one thing, but having 4 invoices that were not paid, that seems very odd to me. So anyway, that's it. Thanks.
Any other questions on the budget? Okay. We will move on then into new business. There seemed to be some confusion based on me having Joe, that was me, put upcoming projects discussion in there. It didn't mean that we were voting on projects. It didn't mean that we had applications of projects. It meant basically that we were going to talk about Westgate Circle, the RFP that we had, and just anything. It's kind of like an open discussion time for us to talk about administrative stuff, what we're going to do moving forward. If anybody had any other ideas for projects, any other RFP things and whatever, it's just a time for us to have the communication and the conversations, because we don't have a spending vote this month. So it allows us to talk about things. And so we were just trying to be generic. If there was an actual project, or if there was actual somebody presenting an application to us, it would have been listed under new business with the person and the project. So if you don't see it on the agenda, there are no applications to review prior to. Joe even mentioned in the email that it wasn't a spending vote meeting. So it's just, we are here to discuss what is happening with mainly the Westgate Circle project. We are not here to discuss any other applications. We didn't have any applications submitted fully before the agenda went out. So it's not this month, but it'll be next month in which we discuss any applications that are received by April 30th. And that is where we are. So before I jump into Westgate Circle, though, I would like to talk about some rules and procedures and the ethics. And moving forward, we have some new members, so there is a grace period, but the city of Annapolis does have training. And there's been questions in the past about why our minutes are done the way that they are and our agendas and vice versa. And I would like to say that our secretary, Joe, is actually doing the minutes in the agenda as he was trained to do. He's doing it per the training from the city of Annapolis. If you go to annapolis.gov/training, all of the videos are there. They are going to start making the training mandatory for all boards and commissions. So I will send the link out to everybody, and I recommend that you go. It talks about how the meetings can be run. It talks about how we function after the meetings, outside of the meetings, what you're allowed to talk about, what you're not allowed to talk about. There can be no side conversations about applications and applicants outside of this meeting. Everything has to be public. And having the live stream meetings allows us to record the conversations so people can watch them later. And it's all on our YouTube channel. I sent that link out earlier this week too, for everybody to review the meetings. If you've forgotten what has been discussed or what was voted on or what was said, and you're not getting it from the minutes, you can go back and watch the meetings. Everybody has access to the meetings. We cannot talk about rules and procedures or changing our code or any of that inside conversations as well. That needs to happen here on this platform in front of everybody. So we are transparent and everybody knows what is happening. And if you have suggestions, please bring them to the meeting. There is, even if it's a spending meeting, even if it's a presentation meeting, we still have time during open discussion in order to have these conversations. So I'll send the link out. Please, everybody, do the training if you haven't done it yet. And once you've completed it, you can send notification over to Hillary that you have completed it, and they won't make you redo it again later. You should be good for the rest of the time that you're serving on the commission. And if you have any questions about the training, you can ask Hillary. Don't ask me because I didn't set it up. It's not my rule and regulations. They're the city's rules and regulations. And I think we'll be good if we all just are on the same page as to how we operate. And we stay within the guidelines of the city. So if nobody has any questions or concerns about this, we can move on to new business. I do want to say though, that if we could also with your agenda items, make sure that you are returning them by Friday at noon to Joe. I do appreciate the excitement of talking about other things and wanting them on the agenda, but make sure they get in, because once we submit the agenda to the city, I mean, you can remediate it, you can ask for change, but that gets kind of confusing. So I would prefer that everything is set, by noon on Friday before we turn it in. But if there is like a last minute thing that you think has to be on the agenda this month, then we can talk to Hillary about amending the agenda. So that is an option, but we can't take last minute applications either. So that is something that we have to make sure that we have plenty of time. Because like I said before, they have to be an approved vendor of the city before we can have them do a proposal. Because if they do a proposal and they're not an approved vendor yet, and then we want to cut them a check and we can't, if the city finds out that we can't pay them, then it creates another chaos with the whole getting their money stuff. So that is why we're setting up this process of having enough time to review, making sure that the city verifies them as a approved vendor, that they can receive the money from the grants, and that everything is per our code that we are allowed to support. And then we can have them present. So that's the only reason why we stopped doing the last minute applications, rushing, until midnight to have them before the meeting. So it's there to protect the applicant and make sure that the applicant does receive the things that we are promising them. There is no other reason for that.
Except the money. But
Yeah.
that's not anybody's fault here. Question. Annapolis is a big community, and a lot of things go on in Annapolis, and sometimes they relate to arts. Is some activity that we want to discuss as a commission able to be put on the agenda if we let Joe know like Thursday or before? Even though it may not be specifically a application for a grant.
So if it falls within our code and what our purview, what we're allowed to do, then we can definitely have it part of the discussion. If it's not a project, it could definitely be talked about during open discussion. If you go and you watch the training videos, they have made it very specific about what you can and cannot put on the agenda. So even though you want to talk about XYZ, whatever it is, it may just fall underneath the open discussion category. It's not a line item on our agenda. It's line items are mostly about spending and voting on things. The things that we just discussed about in general about the arts and the city would be underneath the open discussion. And those you would just bring with you. You can tell Joe ahead of time, hey, I want to talk about, Ward 2 and whatever it is that you want to talk about with Ward 2. But it wouldn't necessarily get put on the agenda. It would just occur during open discussion. And Joe can verify if you like.
Yeah, and I don't, just to follow that up, I don't mind doing that. I mean, I have a sense of where that line is between what's a kind of general interest, kind of broader open discussion versus something that might end up on a new business line. So if you want to send any of that information to me when I send out the solicitation, I'm happy to hear it, but I might come back and say that's an open discussion. That's more of an open discussion item, if that makes sense.
Anything about the rules and procedures and training?
Is there a time limit that we have to do this, or just like the done?
Nope, you
You
can
know.
do it like if you want to do one video a week, that's fine, and there isn't
Okay.
there isn't that many videos. And then
Okay.
just let Hillary know when you're done with the training.
Didn't
Cool,
you get
thanks.
that memo, David? It's tonight at midnight.
I feel like I'm at work, Joe. I mean, we got a whole bunch of trainings we got to do every week. Work, and it's like, make sure you do it by the end of the week. So I just,
Mhm.
don't get yelled at. So, all right. No, I did not get that memo, Joe.
David, we're in such trouble. Trust me.
I feel it, Jim. I feel the trouble just lurking around the corner.
Pretty painless, honestly. Don't be scared by it. It just
Okay.
makes sure that we're all operating on the same page. So are we good? Awesome. Okay. We'll move on then. So let's have this project basically open discussion. I sent out the draft of the RFP today. Apologies that it didn't come out days before, but the Arts Council was working on it and tweaking it just to get us a rough draft that we could look at. The Arts Council has agreed to partner with us on this, and that would mean that they are going to accept the applications and process the applications much like they did for the large mural for the county. So it's going to operate in the same way. They are doing this for us for free and not requiring any payment from us. So this is a huge gift from them for us. They will also help us with the additional funding that we may need for it, depending on what happens. So they put in a base price of $100,000. Like I said, this is all rough draft. So if during this discussion, if anybody thinks that we should raise it, higher, or if we should lower it, or anything that's in this RFP, please feel free to give your feedback now. And I can tell Trisha to what the edits are that the commission wants to have. After that process, we would then send the rough draft over to the city to make sure that we're compliant with everything. At some point for installation, DPW is going to have to be involved. Planning and zoning should be involved. Legal, of course, is going to be involved because we're going to end up owning this piece. And so a contract will have to be drafted. Ashley is aware that Arts Council offered this and she was going to do a letter of understanding. She is on vacation, so she won't be here for comment right now, but we can definitely send things over to her for feedback, as well as just the city in general, the mayor and the city manager, knowing that we will be moving forward with this once the commission is comfortable. There's a timeline in the RFP that we're hoping that we can keep by, which would start it in June. And you see there, it is a process, going forward. We have to do a selection for the remainder of the committee as well. For the selection committee, we have to choose people. So let me know what your thoughts and comments are on it. I'm going to go turn on my light while.
Hello? Are you there?
She's still there. I think she's back.
I had to turn my light on.
Oh, okay.
Dark in here.
This is Krista. I had a question. So the Arts Council, was that something that, I think that's great that they're offering to help with this. Is that something though, as a commission, we vote on, or did we already vote on that we wanted to do that, or is that out of our hands?
Well,
Is
if
that
you,
just something that,
so
ahead.
honestly, if everybody decided, you know, if a majority tonight decided that we didn't want the Arts Council to be part of it, that's fine. Just know that then it all comes back onto the commission as far as,
no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is with all transparency and things being discussed in the commission, that seems like a pretty important thing. And I think it's a great thing that they want
Right.
to do that. But I would think that would be something that we would have to vote on to say, or did somebody else make a decision above us that said that's what they want us to do?
well, the request has been to partner with the Arts Council over and over from the commission. So, and we have
Okay.
been partnering with them with other issues, but I mean,
So
definitely.
is that part of is that like, did we vote on that we said this is what we're going to go forward?
No,
I apologize if I don't remember
It's
that.
okay.
But
Well, yeah, you weren't at the last meeting anyway, so you might have
okay,
missed something, but you didn't miss something.
missed that.
So,
Yeah.
so no,
Okay.
but it's totally tonight. If we decide not to move forward with the Arts Council and doing it this way, that's totally fine too. And then it gets
Okay.
kicked back to procurement to create an RFP for us. And then the whole process would be just regulated through the commission, the selection panel of the commission and the 3 community members, and then through procurement, I believe would accept the.
Okay. Then my other question is, how do we get the word out to the artists for the applications and all that? Will the
Right.
Arts Council be doing that, or how does that publicly get out to, in a fair way, to everybody who is interested in being part of it?
Yeah. So it is in the RFP, but there is a process of publishing and getting the word out, the call for artists. So there's a timeline in which that functions and goes through. We could,
Okay.
we do, it's open, for 30 days. We can adjust that if you guys want to open for longer, for 60 days. We
I
can
just want to make sure that the word gets out to all of the artists
Right.
that want to know about it, and that it's being published not
Yeah.
just in 2 or 3 places where you're in the know, but it's a big call out, just to be fair
Right.
to be fair to the community and that sort of thing. That's all. And my question about getting the extra help through the process through the Arts Council, I'm not against that. I just want to make sure you understand that's clear. I was just trying to understand, like, was that already a given or what? So thanks for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Yeah, like I said, it's just a rough draft to get us started. And if anybody has any, things that they want to omit from it or add to it, or like I said, if you're not comfortable having the Arts Council accept the applications and feed them through the process for us and help us with the grant funding, then that's fine. As far as the grant funding goes, though, we would have to work with some entity that can accept grants, because we cannot accept grants as we are currently established on our own. They can't come directly to Arts and Public Places. So it does have to be run through a second system. And because of that, the Arts Council did offer to help us with the funding. And then they said, well, since we're helping you with the funding, we could run the RFP applications as well. So that's kind of how that transpired, just so everybody knows.
Will they be able to receive the funding?
Yes, the Arts Council can receive the funding for us. David, you
Okay.
have your hand up.
Yes. Well, for starters, I'm in favor of the Arts Council helping out, because that's a big lift. It's a lot of work. I wasn't part of the first one. So it's a lot of effort that we don't have to do. So yay, team. Just looking at the RFP, and just a question really, under the site section, there's an area in there where it kind of describes the sculpture that was removed that they're replacing. I'm just wondering, is there a need to indicate what was there before? Or is that just, again, just, I mean, again, a question more than a statement? I don't have a problem with it. I'm just wondering, is there a need to kind of talk about something that's been gone for 3 years?
Can I just say I second that? That was my question as well.
Okay, well, there
Yeah,
you go
why are we
then.
talking about something that's gone?
Yeah,
And it
Yeah,
kind of hints at
exactly.
it kind of points in a particular direction that,
right. And that's the reason, because
Right.
I know,
yeah.
we had,
Sorry.
I'm sorry, thoughts about, and I love the part about, representative of all the people, because I've seen other boat in the stream or crab. I would, but again, if you're going to talk about what was there, that kind of gives you the artist. So like, well, what was there? Let's see if we can do something that was there initially. So I don't want to put that precursor in their head. So I would suggest removing that part from the RFP.
Okay,
I
Again,
certainly
my
don't,
suggestion.
I don't object to it being in there, but if somebody has a problem with it, I don't see that being an issue. The couple questions that I had. First of all, I want to, Genevieve, who wrote this RFP? I mean, who wrote this document?
Tricia Sandberg at the Arts Council. She's the one
Okay.
that creates all the RFPs.
It's very well written, and I like the fact that you suggested that she make some of the decision making local. That's
Yes.
very good.
Well, that's
I
per
do
our
have-
code, technically, so.
Yeah, and of course involving the commission, and I like the idea that the Arts District is involved, and even the residents in the Ward 1. I think we need to understand that this piece of art may be there for 100 or more years. We don't know. If we do it right, it will be something that people will want to keep there. So I was curious as to how we are, we're sending out this RFP, but will we have an opportunity to have experts from, for example, Washington, D.C. has a lot of experience placing, their commission has a lot of experience placing this kind of art in circles and squares in the city. And some of that expertise could be helpful. I'm concerned that when we pick the art, my biggest concern is that we really get a professional job done by the artist. And the other problem that I have is you mentioned who the members, that the mention of the members of the commission and the Ward 1 and so forth. When will the public have the opportunity to comment on the 3 finalists? I don't blame her for going under the table or leaving the room because I ask tough questions, but it's a tough question. We need to know what the public thinks. Are we still working?
Did something happen?
Yeah,
We're still live.
we are. I think Genevieve had something going on her end, I think.
Okay, I see everybody.
Okay.
I would say I don't. I would say I
Maybe
don't.
Joe, you could comment on this, or David, because you've been around a long time.
Yeah,
You guys-
I mean, I
feel free to say
mentioned.
something.
Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't think that's particularly tough questioning, but I would say I do think maybe not in the RFP. I think somehow the dates of the RFP are very clean, but whether that actually creates the buffer for public comment that you're looking for, I think that's the question. We can talk about that timeline a little bit. Because I know what you mean in terms of that turnaround time. I think, Genevieve, am I right that this, like, even the timeline that's proposed is kind of it's proposed, right?
It's all proposed. It's all
Okay.
rough. So anything that wants to be changed can totally be changed. So.
Did you
Okay.
hear my comment about the public having an opportunity to look at the finalists and make a comment?
Definitely. So there is definitely that open period where my hope is that we can use our website as well as notify the public. I do have, I want to say, a couple journalists who will be following this and writing about it. So
Mhm.
it will be published, and there will, in the papers, the Baltimore Sun and the Capital Gazette. So it's not just us posting it on the website, because I know that not everybody utilizes our website. So the three finalists, how it goes is that the three finalists will be selected. They will be asked to put more formal proposals together. The RFP proposes that we pay them a stipend to do that during that time. And then those formal proposals will be allowed for public comment and posted for everybody to see. And those public comments can come in and help us when the commission comes down to vote for, who the finalists will be out of those three. So those will be taken into consideration.
Now, I had made an earlier comment about bringing in expertise from, like Maryland Institute or, someone like Joe from an art historian, people who, see these things, study these things, know what works, what doesn't work. And we may even want to include one of the traffic. I think there's a specialist in the Maryland DOT or SHA, whichever, who specializes in traffic circles. And maybe that would be another person that, I believe that collaboration with a lot of people is better than, 8 people going off and making a decision. Not that we can't do it or we shouldn't. It's just that in the end, we'll do that. But I'd like to have a lot of input because, as I say, this is going to be a really significant sculpture, and we want to, or art piece or whatever that we want to do. And
so
having help would be good.
In reference to that, that's why planning and zoning and DPW, Department of Public Works, and legal is involved in all of this, is because there is a traffic study, and there will be one done. And there has been traffic studies before for applicants that we've had for Westgate Circle. So the jurisdiction does fall within the city. I'm not saying we can't bring outside experts in if we want to discuss with them or whatever, but that I think that would have to be at the choice of the commission. Know that sometimes there is a consulting fee that goes with that. Not everybody does that for free. So it might be something that we need to think about as well. But, we're open to suggestions. So.
Well, we could certainly give them a free boat ride. But I'm serious that we could, I don't know.
I'm not sure that's ethical, but yeah, okay.
We can at least ask. And that I think would be really helpful. And I think some people would be really eager to help Annapolis. I mean, it's their state capital.
Yeah, I imagine, Jim, that, something of this size and magnitude going where it's going, a lot of people, you're going to probably have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, I imagine, at some point in time, having some suggestions and comments and ideas about what should and how it should go and when it should go, based on, again, being involved in the first sculpture that went up. I mean, you're going to be surprised who's going to come out of the woodworks when you say, oh, boy, we're getting ready to put a sculpture up in Westgate Circle, and this is what we're thinking about. Just knowing Annapolis. Sorry, Joe, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you didn't.
Go ahead, Joe.
But yeah, I would just, first of all, I would just echo that idea or expectation that some of that expertise is not free from outside, and that we actually have pretty deep resources in the city that are kind of already incorporated into the process. And I do think this is speaking a little bit from experience, exactly what David just said about too many cooks in the kitchen. If you start asking people from different contexts and different places, sort of what they think about your local thing, that's a lot of voices. If they want to kind of volunteer that as part of an input process, amazing. But you know, sort of, I would be more cautious about inviting a lot of that kind of outside input beyond what's already kind of built into the RFP. I think what I was raising my hand to say, I think my only other concern is that what now looks like the comment period is between August 1st and September 1st. And that's actually, we don't meet that month. I mean, that feels like so I'm worried about August as the time when all that happens. And it also means that we wouldn't be able to meet to even like report back to the commission before kind of the finalist thing. So that's the one adjustment I would want to consider for the schedule, maybe.
Yeah, so the comments could come in August, but they wouldn't be reviewed until the September meeting. So it'd be the end of September instead of, yeah. So it puts it back a month.
Yeah, I think even if we just extended and made the finalist like push everything back from September just an extra month, is that too much? Yeah.
No. I mean, it's
a long time to have. It's 2 months for having kind of proposals hanging out there, but it does give us more opportunity to kind of solicit input and gives us a chance to kind of see where things are before the announcement.
Yeah, I'm okay with, slowing it down to make sure that we're checking all of our boxes and making sure that we're getting the input that we need on it, and we do it thoroughly. I don't want it to be rushed. I know some people would like it to go faster, but I think if we're being transparent and fair to the community and the artists, that this is the timeline that we're going to have. This is just how it operates. So some people have to have patience, but we've also been waiting for years to get it done too. Barbara?
It would help if I unmute myself. Sorry. I had a question back on the first page about the $100,000 commission, where it talks about what it covers. I guess I'm concerned that, yes, $100,000 is a lot of money. But when you talk about the fees and travel, especially if this person's not from Annapolis, do we have a contingency plan that could pay for like those little extras that won't eat into the actual commission? Or is that 100,000 pretty much inflexible, I guess?
So the way that it's written right now is that, the 100,000 would be our budget. And out of that 100,000, like all of those things listed would come out of it. So it's not that the art piece itself is 100,000. It's the whole process. Our budget is 100,000. So again, it's a rough number. It's just, I think we were just looking to match what we have set aside as the starting point. So if we think that we need to change it and say that, your stipend is only this for travel and whatever, and make that separate out of the 100,000, then we could definitely write that in there, or we keep it as is, or maybe we raise the 100,000. Do you have an idea of like how you would like that to be written instead?
I just wanted it to be, I guess it's not clear to me, because if I was applying, I would think, okay, well, that's all I have. And if I'm traveling from like, I don't know, Baltimore or something like that, and I have to come down for all these meetings, and, that's my travel cost. I have to get a hotel, blah, blah, blah. I would start to get worried about how much I would have left for the actual piece.
Actually, $1,500 is pretty skimpy for a world-class piece of art.
Well,
So,
that's just to redo their proposal.
Right, right. No,
Yeah.
fine. Well, that's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
The other question I had, could we?
I'm sorry. Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt anybody.
Barbara, were you done?
no, I'm sorry. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
I get, no, I think 100,000 is plenty of money. I just want to maybe not written, but just have a contingency, because I know from doing a lot of things that there's always a contingency because something's always going to go wrong or something's going to go over. If we can even unofficially, just in our commission, think, well, okay, maybe we'll have a $10,000 contingency plan just in case. I don't know how you guys think about that.
Yeah, that could be something that we voted on, like on the side, and decide to hold, like $10,000 extra on the side, just in case, there's extra expenses to the artist or whatever, and that they want to bill us for. I think that's something that we could discuss.
Okay, great. Thanks. I just wanted to know if we had that flexibility or not.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
you. Jim?
I think we could go to the Arts District or some of the other groups in Annapolis if we needed extra money. And maybe we could even apply for another grant from somebody to get extra money if we needed it. I would like to see us somewhere insert in this project timeline the period for the public to comment on the finalists. In other words, they get to see what the finalists have come up with, and then they can say, oh, that's awful, or yeah, that's great, or, can you ask them to move the guy's arm the other way, or so, there'll be some of that.
Yeah, so that
also,
that would be August 1st through September 1st.
Okay, but I'd like to see it put in there. But that seems early in the process because the finalists won't be announced until September.
Right. So
it would have to be after that, after September. The other groups, for example, are Historic Annapolis. They would probably want to comment, and certainly we should welcome their input. And I
You're
think
more than welcome to publicly comment. It's open to everybody. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, but I do think that we should be thinking about them also in our process.
Yeah, I don't know if they necessarily need to be like listed specifically who, we're thinking about, because it's open to the full community. Like everybody can comment and everybody can have a say on what the proposals are. So, but definitely, we'll make sure that they are aware that we are working on this project. Just making notes, so hold on. Okay. Anything else, Jim?
For now, that's it.
Okay. David?
I guess, I'm kind of going back to Barbara's question, actually. I know 100K is a lot of money, but is that really enough money for a world? I mean, again, you're thinking about a permanent sculpture that's going to be here for, decades at least. And it's got to be, made of, something that's durable that, so, I mean, and I saw the $100,000, like, yeah, I'd love to have $100,000 of my very own. I know it's a lot of money, but is it a lot of money? And again, it's more of a question that, because at one point in time, I know back in there, we like $350,000, $500,000 for sculptures. And like, yeah, okay. I've seen, you go to a major city, you've seen some really cool sculptures, and they're pretty pricey sculptures because they're, a lot of work and effort, and they're made of some serious materials and steel and that sort of thing, which is obviously, and then the transportation of getting it here and the whole bit. So do we really think $100,000 is a fair price for a sculpture that, would represent Annapolis that's going to be here for, our lifetime, give or take? Yeah. So that's my question, really.
And it's definitely something for us to discuss and consider. There's also the ability that maybe we raise more than 100,000. We just don't know at this time. We're starting an RFP based on the assumption that, we're going to have other funding come in. I've been told that there's possibly some public funding, some private funding that is very interested in being invested into this. I don't know dollar amounts. I have no idea. And then, the Arts Council too said that, there's various grants, that they have that we can, apply for and can be appropriated towards this. So who knows, maybe we can even slide something in there for next session and ask, the state and the county to like contribute money as well. So, I mean, who knows? I mean, it may end up being more. I don't know how to write that into an RFP. I think you have to give them some sort of set line to work with, as an artist. I know you know that, and this is your budget. But again, it's like kind of are we putting the cart before the horse, or are we doing this properly? Should we until we have the funding to put out the RFP, or do we put the RFP out and then worry about the funding later?
So yeah, that was sort of my question. Is like, so I guess technically we have 50,000. You said the Arts Council is going to match us, so that's at this point 100.
There's no
guaranteed.
guarantee.
So we know at least we have that in theory.
Yeah. There's no guarantee.
$100,000 doesn't go far.
Well,
dealing with marble or metal.
Right. We have 50,000.
So we already know that's too low, and I'm thinking, we need to think about. We're probably going to be in the range of 200,000, maybe even more, but we have to start somewhere. So maybe
I guess
about mentioning a number and just
I guess my question is really again to the entire committee is that maybe our next step should be secure funding, or at least look into securing or looking at what's available. Because right now, I know, money is tight for everybody, for companies. So, I mean, maybe we need to, before we put out an RFP with a dollar figure, maybe we should make sure we have at least $100,000, because, that's on there now. So, have at least a bare minimum so we can at least say, okay, we got this. Versus like, okay, we're gonna hope for $300,000, but we may not get it. So, it might be 100,000, might be 300,000. We won't know until we sign the paper. So, yeah, this again.
When you show this to the public, that's when you'll be able to raise money. And, when they see this potential, people will spend money for something they can see. They just are reluctant to spend money that's, a dream. I think it would probably be better not to mention an amount in the RFP, except that, they tell us what they think is a reasonable amount of money. Maybe we have to negotiate, but we may end up getting somebody really top flight interested, and if they want a lot of money, we have to bite the bullet and say, well, do we really want to raise that, or let's go to the next guy down or the next woman down? I think I think I agree with that, Jim. Because if you got some world-class dude, he's like $100,000, I don't even get out of bed for $100,000. He's off to somewhere else, and we're gonna get somebody else who's. I said they're not going to be a terrible sculpture, but I guess we don't want to. I kind of sort of agree with not putting a price in the RFP. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
done. Thank you.
It's a valid point for discussion. Thank you, David.
Okay.
Joe?
On that point, this is not why I have my hand raised, but I would urge some caution about an open-ended RFP. That's not exactly best practice to kind of, because you're going to waste a lot of people's time, a lot of artists' time submitting proposals when they have absolutely no idea what your budget is. Most people won't, unless they have at least a ballpark of what your scope is, and they know how to interpret all of that. So I think I agree that we're committing to a particular type of artist, a particular type of scale and scope, if by whatever number we say. So if we're not ready to say that number yet, then that to me is a separate issue. But I think an RFP that goes out with no limit is sort of not standard. But I was going to say that, this actually kind of circles back to Barbara's concern. Now that we are on the road to a kind of set of concrete criteria, we are one place that we can go back to that obviously the County Arts Council has a lot of experience with is the State Arts Council for the new public art grants that they have. And there's two of them. The first is a planning grant up to $10,000. And one of the things it specifies that it's to be used for is to subsidize stipends for your finalists and things like that. So if we're worried about sort of like we could, if we were able to get some of that money, we could supplement, like have it not come out of our pocket, but kind of some of that administrative stuff that it absolutely eats up everything. That's what the planning grant is kind of covered for. And then later down the road, once we've identified the project, we can, or the artist, we can apply for the project grant, which is up to $50,000.
Yep.
The reason I bring that up now is just looking at those applications, they do, even the planning grant requires a little bit more concrete information than I think we have at this point in our process. Specifically around, to kind of go to what Jim said before, I'm pointing this way because he's over there in my screen. That like for, you have to submit with the planning grant, you have to submit a fairly detailed plan about public input. Like what's your plan for getting that input? And I think we can get there pretty straightforwardly, but just looking ahead a little bit, if we want to access that state money, which I feel like they would be happy to get that application from us. I feel like we're not quite at that concrete place. This discussion is going to get us there.
Yeah. And I agree. And I think, adding the public comment in there from August 1st to September 1st, kind of helps define, the public's participation in that. The other thing to remember too, is that we do have, the fiscal year 24 funds coming in. So as a commission, just an idea, I'm not saying we have to, or we could match the 50 that we've already set aside and say, we will give the other 50. And then we do have the 100 to move forward with. That's an option too. And then if we do get a grant from other places, that just comes in, and then we don't have to take it out of the fiscal year 2024. We can use the grants that we get. So that's another option to look at, having guaranteed funds, which I'm kind of more comfortable in, like putting a dollar amount in there that we ourselves can guarantee if we're going to release this RFP soon, versus hoping that, we get grants that will supplement that in the end, or private public funding. There hasn't been any checks cut. So, I don't like to spend money that we don't necessarily have. So that's an option too, that we could do. And, of course, if we get outside funding, then we don't have to spend any of our money. So if it works out that way.
Joe, from your experience, is this schedule realistic? Because if it's a major piece of art, it can be completed in this kind of window of time that we've given.
The process can, for sure. I mean, just by comparison, when the college did a very similar project, it was at a higher financial scale, let's put it that way. But we did the whole process, was fully complete during an academic year, which is essentially 8 months from initial RFP to selection. Was 7 or 8 months.
Okay, good.
Barbara?
Thanks, Genevieve. This is something completely different. I'm just going back and looking at the RFP under the site, where it describes, its location. It says the U.S. Naval Academy Cemetery is also within site. That's incorrect. It's actually the Annapolis National Cemetery. It's part of the National Cemetery System. So that needs to be changed.
Yeah, I'll have that wording changed. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else?
No, but I love that we're talking about this. It's exciting.
I know. So exciting.
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of stuff I like, yeah.
It's
Everybody's-
finally happening.
Chomping at the bit for decades to get this thing done.
True. Okay, so I have to talk about adding in a contingency for the artists in the event that their expenses go over, that we allow ourselves as a commission to vote on supplying that extra money if necessary. I also have that we will eliminate the verbiage that talks about the replacing the previous art that was there. I have that we will push the finalists from September 1st to October 1st. Is that correct? And then I guess we're not going to put a dollar amount in right now. I'm not comfortable with that. I think we have to set a budget. So I don't know if we I don't know if we have a concrete answer for that right now.
Well, I mean, if we use your option of like we have 150 coming in a couple of months, we could take 50 from that, vote on that when we're ready to do that to guarantee the 100,000. Because I'm with you. I don't like promising money we don't have. So if we have the $100,000 and that's what we have, then I'm cool with putting that on the list. And if we can get more, we can get more. And if they come back and say, I got this really bomb sculpture that's going to cost you $125, and I guess maybe we can have that conversation with them to make sure it's $25,000 worth of effort to get, But,
I'm thinking the money will be the last problem we have.
I'm hoping so, Jim. I would love that. I mean,
if we come up with a good design, I think the community will rise to the occasion. People build ball stadiums and stuff like that out of, lemonade sales. So it's possible to do it. So I think Joe's right. We have to have something to start with, and then, maybe we can, it'll be possible to embellish it. One of the artists might say to us, "Are you kidding? I'm not going to spend, I'm going to spend all this time. $100,000 is nothing." And we'll get a feel for what we can get. And remember, we might accept 15 proposals or 60 proposals and find out we're not really impressed with any of them. And we may realize that we need to ratchet up our offer, I should say. So that's something we can do. And I think if we get some input from other places, that might also be helpful for us to understand how much something like this could cost. But Joe's right. I think we should have a number and just tough it out, but be flexible and ready to change it.
Yeah.
So Joe, the project that you were talking about at the college, what was it and what was the price point on it? Just out of curiosity.
There were two, and unfortunately I can only give you the one because I don't have the details for the other one. But the one I'm referring to was the commemorative to enslaved people of Southern Maryland, and the RFP stipulated $400,000 budget. So it was, more
It was
money,
nice.
but the
It was a nice
process,
budget.
the process was the same. But I will say we did do a second one, and I know it was not nearly that amount of money, but we still got a lot of submissions for that, and a really nice. It's a very cool kind of environmental, it's very cool. But the commemorative to the enslaved was like a big project, and we actually did get money from the state for that as well. But it was advertised, I think, as a complete budget of around $400,000.
This is Krista. I just wanted to add that I'm not surprised that it was $400,000 for the location of where this piece is going to be. for everything that would have to be involved in it with the installation, materials, I mean, you know, all of that, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, that 400 or 500,000 or even, you know, on upwards. One question I had was perhaps some of the artists might have their own donors that might be supportive of their work or that would be willing to, you know, be a donor for the project. Is that part of the package? Like if somebody does submit that they, you know, here's the design, and then, you know, we're going to give 100,000, maybe we'll give more, we don't know yet. But if an artist comes in and says, here's my piece, this is what it's going to cost, but I also have funding for it, and maybe the piece is going to cost, you know, $500,000 or more. Is that part of some of these packages?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Joe just gave a thumbs up,
Okay.
Krista. So yeah, I mean, if
Okay.
private funding wants to come in, you know, I'm and help supplement, I'm not going to say no. I don't think any of us would say
Well,
no.
no, but that's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like, I think that we do need to somehow, you know, get the word out that we are looking for that kind of support for this particular project. And, or I know you have stated that the, you know, it's a neighborhood thing and it's a ward thing and everything, but because of where it is, there is a part of me that thinks that this needs to be not just the ward. So I'm kind of waffling back and forth. Maybe that's for another discussion for another day, or my own personal opinion on that. But if we do want a high-end piece with an artist that knows what they're doing, that, you know, is going to be using materials that are going to last long. I think Jim or somebody said, you know, this could last 100 years. You know, conservation needs to be part of that, you know, the upkeep of the piece and all of that. So I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to need like more money for this. And maybe we need to make it a bigger thing for the city, not just the ward. But, you know, I don't want to ruffle any feathers.
I think that's
You know,
I
when we
think
build a
that's
house in
part.
Annapolis, it's costing, you know, upwards of $400,000.
Yeah.
$100,000? Come on. You know,
Yeah.
so we have to think of that way.
Yeah, the whole city would definitely be included, and that's the whole part of the public comment, you know, section. You know, it was just the panelists trying to give it some sort of direction of who would be on the panelists for the selection committee. Rosalind would like to make a comment, so I'm going to let her come in.
Hi there, thank you. I hope it's okay. And forgive me ahead of time because I don't know everyone's backgrounds. So I might be telling you something you already know, but along the lines of what Joe was saying, I've been involved in art in public places projects. And traditionally what we've done as a public recreation and parks department is had like the first round of artists submit drawings and sketches. And if they move to the second round, and you all may already be doing this again, because I don't have the information. If they move to the second round, we pay them a stipend. Years ago, like 6 years ago, it was like $1,500. And recently when we did, it was $5,000 per artist for them to kind of sketch out their pieces and then move forward with it. And we've had some pretty significant pieces of artwork, at least in Prince George's County. And for South Tech Rec, which was the Maryland Building of the Year for whatever year we built it. We ended up with two pieces because we couldn't decide between the two. So we put one in the front of the building and one in the back on the patio. And they were significant. They were about $75,000. And then the Westphalia, we put a huge piece on the front of the building, which was metal, ironwork, and fused glass and all sorts of things. And I think that was a little more expensive. I just wanted to kind of share that insight, and those public applications can still be found online. So sometimes, you know, it's better to just not reinvent the wheel, but tweak it.
Exactly. Yeah. I definitely, we're passing back and forth some other RFPs that Joe had received, and Eric Lashinsky sent us some too that he knew were done in other places. But that's fabulous information. Then it helps give us like more of an idea for budget too. I like the 75,000 ring, but I was wondering, so like we did mention that the stipend, we do have a stipend in there, Rosalind, and it was for 1,500 per artist. So like the first proposal can be really rough, they can be just sketches and whatever. And then the 3 finalists would then go and then put a full professional proposal together with, renderings and everything that we need, specifics. But maybe we need to look at changing that, because in the RFP we have it $1,500 per artist. Rosalind's saying they paid their artists $5,000 each. So I think that's something we can discuss too.
Yeah, I have to go back and double check just to make sure, and I'm happy to do that. Also, one lesson that we learned is we wanted to keep the prototypes, and we learned that after, I think, going through it 1 or 2 times, and we wanted to keep the prototypes so we could get the community excited about it. But a lot of artists, unless you put it in the RFP, don't allow you to keep it.
Yeah, I guess we could build that into is like maybe we pay them for the prototypes if we wanted to keep them and put them somewhere. I don't know where. We'll put them in the city hall, or we'll put them at Pitt Moyer. We could do a little display alcove.
Can I just ask a quick clarification? By the prototypes, do you mean the proposal? I'm just curious what that would entail.
Sure, the mini versions that we paid, the 1,500 or 5,000, whatever, we wanted to keep those because those were, kind of really what it was going to look like. And, for community input, to have those with the community so that they could say, oh my gosh, you're right, this one is really our favorite, or maybe they could do this a little bit differently. But that really kind of helped us with that process. And then they were just so amazing. We're like, okay, we need to keep this. It was just phenomenal, the art that the artist created.
I also like that as an archival idea, just a public record of that activity, even if it's not the one that you choose. I love that stuff. So I think that's a great idea.
That would be kind of cool, because then the final 3, all of them, would have their pieces displayed somewhere. Yeah. And
then the public understands too that it's a deliverable that they actually paid for, instead of, oh, here's your idea, create this, and then we'll give it back. And then we kind of have, in theory, nothing to show for the 1,500 or whatever it is to a lay person. Of course, the artist's time and effort and creativity is certainly worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
And they can be put in the Annapolis Museum and tell a story of how we got the final piece. Or if we have to, we can auction them off and make money to help pay the artist in the first place that won the competition.
Jim's thinking about the money. I like this. This is good. This is good. Okay. I think they're all valid points. And then also Barbara mentioned that we need to change the wording, that it's not the Naval Academy Cemetery. That's my other point that I had there. That's the National Cemetery. So
right.
Yeah. So that's there. Any other points and edits or comments?
So
are we having any kind of reception?
Hold on.
Who's going to pay for the reception?
You are, Krissa. Just kidding.
And you
But
get
I
to
know
plan
Krissa
it
likes to
too.
plan a party, though. Krissa likes to plan.
We need to budget. We need to budget that in there.
Budget for the reception. I'm sure, I don't want to commit the city, but I'm sure we could, have some sort of reception or something. So, but that is,
Right.
that is something that we need to consider.
This is also jumping the gun, but we do have a couple of gallery spaces that we have programming opportunities in is that something we could talk about, sort of setting aside a block of time in one of those for the proposals?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I'm not objecting to that. So do we want to do another rough draft, have these edits put in, and then have it come back to the commission in May about the dollar amount? We should know what fiscal year 2024 is looking like in May, hopefully, cross our fingers. And we could decide the money then. And then it also gives us another like 30 days to figure out outside sources or, you know, grants or whatever. And we can discuss the funding more with the Arts Council and whoever we need to reach out to. Does that sound like a plan?
I'm on board with that.
Yeah, me too. I think it sounds very
Yeah,
prudent.
I think that's a really good idea. I'd really love to be able to triple that amount of money somehow with some donors or something from the city, you know,
Most
from
definitely.
the surrounding city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're lucky.
So,
Yeah,
you
$500,000
know, I
sculpture. Yeah,
know,
let's
I
do it.
know.
All right, everybody crack out your
But we'll-
checkbooks. Let's go. Let's just, you know.
Have a car wash, right? Bake
Well, I
sale,
mean-
car wash, something like that.
I was going to say, would the community, would the ward be willing to do some sort of a big, you know, rally to try to raise more funds for it too?
I have no idea, but it's something, you know, we can reach out and we can ask. I'm sure the Arts District, you know, we can talk to them and, you know, there's all kinds of people that we can start getting some sort of
Right.
idea.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for all your work on this.
Certainly. Thank you guys for helping us work through this and adjust this rough draft. And I will send this back over to the Arts Council and let you know what comes from that discussion. And when she sends back the next rough draft, I'll send it out too, so everybody can review it. Now, remember that, you know, don't share it publicly. You know, I mean, we're talking about it now, but I don't want anybody to be confused and think it's an actual RFP when it's not in its final status. So make sure we keep this as our inter-office communications. Yeah.
This is Krista. Can we get some sort of an official update, like almost like a little press blurb, or not a press release, but something about, you know, this is in the works. This is,
Oh yeah.
you know, like it's just a statement that we could then pass on to anyone who's in our ward.
Yeah, I have somebody who wants to write like now, like he's ready to write an
Mhm.
article about this. So like something could be in soon, and it's not specific.
Yeah.
It's just that we're starting this process and this is coming. It's not
Yeah, and just
not
to
a
give people
specific
right.
kind of RFP.
Give
Yeah.
people an idea, because I had a couple people that were asking me, and a couple artists that had thought that this was going to launch more like February, and you know, we're at April now we're looking at the
Yeah.
fall. So I think so yeah, I just think, you know, in all transparency, I think it would be nice to do an update and just be transparent about, you know, we want to get it right, and you know, we're working on it. This is where we are right now, and just kind of get that out to everybody, so that those artists that are in the wings trying to, you know, come up with their plans, supplies, and get the creative juices flowing, that, you know, they know what to expect, because many of them, you know, are involved in other projects, you know, in the area or outside of the area. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we, you know, try to be as transparent as we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Krista. Okay. Okay, so I'll have these changes made and we'll rework it. I'll send it out to everybody. And then I think before the May meeting, we can send it off to the departments too. So they've got a couple weeks to review it and make sure that, you know, we're not, especially legal, we're not missing any of the stuff that we have to put in there, because it will be owned by the city. You know, I think that needs to be specified, that it's, you know, the artist isn't going to come and get it later. You know, it's a permanent piece. The city is acquiring it. So that's stuff that we need to make sure that is defined in there too.
And Genevieve, this is Krista. I just had one. Can you remind me, any artist can submit to this, is that correct? Like, there's no stipulation that they have to be from Maryland or from the city or anything like that, right?
Well, our code does kind of outline that we're supposed to promote local artists. I did ask for clarification from legal at one point, like what that meant, you know, and they said it was within the DMV area, but the RFP does state that there'll be, consideration given to local artists over somebody, let's say from, New Mexico or whatever. Mainly because that
But
is,
like someone from Delaware or someone from Pennsylvania or someone from West Virginia or someone from New York cannot submit. It would be
They-
only someone
no.
from,
as the RFP is written right now, it says Mid-Atlantic area. So
oh,
if you're,
okay, okay,
yeah, so
okay.
they could,
Perfect.
I think in the selection process that there could be preference given to a local artist if the design was part of the selection. So
No,
that
that's fine. The fact that you said Mid-Atlantic, that makes sense to me. Okay, that sounds good.
okay.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Yep.
I would say this is not a guaranteed thing, but the project grant, all the Maryland State Arts Council grants that we might apply for do actually stipulate an artist from Maryland. So depending on how flexible we want it to be for other reasons, we might become ineligible for particular types of state money.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right, but an artist that might be coming from, say, I'll just pick one, Pennsylvania or New York, they might have their own grant money that might follow them
Yeah.
as well, though, right?
That's true.
That could be a possibility. Okay. Anything else on this before we move on? No? Okay. I sent out Joe sent it out, the City Dock wish list. Let me just explain what this is. So this is just a list compiled of desires and hopes and dreams for a legitimate stage at City Dock. It's guidelines that we would like to submit to the City Dock planning and the developers for them to consider and start a conversation. I'd like to invite them, to the commission meeting at some point so we can discuss what they have in their scope for public art at City Dock, as well as the stage. See where we're at with that, see if there is any budget, lines in the budget that's allocated for that funding, or if, we would be responsible for that and it's just to start the conversation, just to make sure that, we are part of the conversation and that they're not just like planning something outside of arts and public places. Technically, if it is on city property and it is art, it is supposed to go through us. Regardless. So, and just trying to get something in front of them so we can start, like I said, start the conversation and have it continue to move forward.
But this is not something that we should put up as something we're recommending.
That is going as a wish list to be considered.
I'm not so sure that the items that you have listed on here, or whoever listed this, are the kind of things that should be on the City Dock. For example, I'll give you one little example. A stage with a roof, not good. Not a good idea.
Why?
Well, it blocks the view, which is the whole point of having a City Dock. Now, wait a minute.
There's a mound. There's a mound there, so everything is up higher anyway. So your point of vision is, and what they have already proposed anyway does have like a roof system on there. So
who has proposed it?
the developers, the people who are actually designing and developing City Dock.
Well, I don't have a lot to say about that, but
And that's fine. That's part of public comment, and we can talk about it.
But I don't think that this kind of thing should come from us. Not this. I think if we, I don't find there's some
Why?
stuff in I just object to. I think it's wrong.
Why? Why shouldn't specifics about art and performance art not come
Stage
from?
height is 36 inches.
Why? All that stuff is standard stuff. That's a standard stage that's needed in order to have performances on. What?
I don't think it should come from the commission. It should come
Why?
from whoever wrote this that's who should send it in. Let the standards, the state people that made the standards, let them send it in. I don't.
Are you
I
implying?
I don't feel that
I
this
feel-
commission should have any role in funding this stage.
I didn't say anything about funding. We're not talking about funding. We're talking about a wish list to start a conversation about what would need to be at City Dock if we're going to put in a proper stage. There's no commitment of funds at this time. I mean, that would not happen. There isn't anything that's like stating funding. This is what we would need in order to have performances down at City Dock.
Here's my concern.
This is Krista.
If you
Can I
look-
add a comment, please?
Hold on, Krista. Let Jim
Um,
finish.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to butt in. But if you look at the stage in People's Park.
It's horrible. It's too
of course.
small.
And that's my point. I
Right.
don't want us to be recommending something that is going to
But
end
I-
up looking like that. And with a
But I
roof on,
wouldn't
it
do
doesn't
that.
look like that.
I wouldn't do that. I mean, that is legitimately like what my background is 12 years in the music industry. And this is what my company does. This is what my family company does day in and day out. So
Are you bidding on this?
I'm not bidding because that would be a conflict of interest, wouldn't it, Jim?
Well,
So,
that,
no,
yeah, I didn't think
these
you
are-
were, but you're not, but this is not your company
God.
proposing this.
there's specifics from me of a wish list that would need to be required to put in a legitimate stage. That's all it is. And it's being handed over to the developers to know that we need to be part of this conversation. Otherwise, we are just going to get something that may not be a proper stage. It's going to be something that is a concept and may not be thoroughly designed or developed. And it can be open for an RFP for bids from whoever the city wants to do if we can get to move forward to that point, where we're not even there yet. We are just starting the conversation about what it is that Arts and Public Places needs to have from City Dock. And it's not the stage that was built at People's Park. It's cute and it's good, but it's not great. And it's not actually very functional from a performance standpoint.
Wait,
Can I ask
So-
my question now?
Hold on,
Yeah.
Krista. So this is from an expert's level on what we would need. So it's not just coming out of the blue. I'm not asking for funding. I'm not saying we're going to fund it. It's a conversation to start.
and who's the expert?
Jim,
Who's the expert?
I just
Can
told
we-
you.
Can we please move on to Chris's question?
Thank you.
This is
Let's move on to-
so insulting.
I'd like to
So
also.
insulting.
Okay.
It
Hey,
is so
everybody,
completely
listen, it's
insulting,
getting-
but Jim, you can do that outside of the meeting. Go ahead, Krista.
Okay, so
Not insulting.
one thing that I would like to request is that, and maybe I've missed a meeting. I don't think I've missed very many, but I didn't miss the last one. For something like this, with talking about the rebuild of the city and all of that, I think it would merit us to have an in-person meeting rather than a Zoom meeting, and ask whoever the developers are, when they're at the right stage, before things are concrete and when they're still at a stage where we can give our input, to have a meeting, have it in person, where they can present to us where they are right now. There were discussions years ago on this at one point. So I need to be brought up to speed. I'll be honest with you. I'm a DC commuter. I'm in the DC museum field. So I'm not in the know enough about what the project is entailing right now. Genevieve, I know that you have an enormous amount of experience and background and expertise in this area. So I definitely would like to look closer at your wish list. I too have lived in this area most of my life, and we love the vistas of the open wide spaces of our city dock. And I know that that is a concern for other people. So to your point, Jim, I hear you. But I think that this is good that we've brought it up. We're not going to solve it at this meeting tonight at 9 o'clock after, having a pretty big meeting and doing other discussions today. but I do think it would be a good idea to try to get something on the agenda for an actual in-person meeting with whoever the people are that are in the know on this project to get us up to speed, so that then if we do want to make any ideas, we can do so with a more, educated background.
Okay, so in point to that, we discussed this at the last meeting, and that's why this list was procured. I didn't just do this like out of the blue. We were discussing the requirements that we would like to have in the conversation with the city doc planning. And I do have a seat at the table as chair of Arts and Public Places, and our meetings are done via Zoom, just so you know. So we're all updated on the current development that is ever evolving for city doc. When we talked about this at the last meeting, the former assistant city manager, Lynn Farrell, who is now on our commission, said that we should put together a list and we should present it to the City Doc Planning Commission and the developers and tell them a wish list of what we would like to have. That way everything is in writing and we can begin this conversation. And that is what I did. That is why this list exists.
Okay, but will we have as a
Okay, that's
committee an
great. And
opportunity
I'd
to
like to
modify
follow
it?
up, if you can excuse me, Jim, for a minute, I'd like to follow up to that discussion that I initiated with Genevieve. Thank you for that. I apologize. I did miss that meeting, so I apologize for that. I do remember that when Jake Owen was here for the Singer-Songwriter Festival, they did a really nice job in putting up a stage, and that went, I thought, really well. It was right down there on the main, area there on the parking lot area. And it was, right off the water and everything. And I thought they did a really great job. That was a temporary, obviously a temporary stage that had to go up for that. So, it is possible to have concerts down there that are, pretty big feature artists. So I just wanted to put that little, nudge in there that it is being done right now. In the meantime, we have the ability to have those types of concerts. So, I am, curious to hear more about what they're planning. So thank you for that, Genevieve. I appreciate your input. And again, we'll take a deeper look at what your wish list is.
Yeah, and I'll send out the link to the current concept that they have delivered from the developers, so you guys can see that a stage is already in the planning. There's already always been like a stage area. It's kind of shifted in different places as the planning process is going along. This isn't something that I'm creating. This isn't something I'm, I want them to do that they haven't already, discussed. It's just talking about the specifics of the proposed plan and how that goes, how that moves forward. We used to tour Jake Owen, and that was temporary production that was brought in. That was not, that wasn't Jake's stuff. That was brought in by the Songwriter Festival, paid to have the stage brought in and the production. So just so everybody's clear on that.
Correct. That's correct. But what I'm saying is that can be done when there is going to be some sort of, production like that on that high end level. It can be done.
And that's the thing is like, it's just the structure and making sure it's compliant and it's able to hold bands, touring bands, not just our local bands. There's some benefits to that the stage can be rented back, just like you can rent out Susan Campbell Park and you pay for permits and all that kind of stuff. The stage too as well could be rented out. It could also be used for local productions. We can have Shakespeare in the Park. Our local theaters can use it to have performances down at City Dock. It's not just for City Dock concerts. And that's just what we're asking, is that they take into consideration what that structure would have to be in order to accommodate all of our arts community, as well as any touring festivals that we want to bring in. It wouldn't actually have lights and speakers and all that kind of stuff, because we actually don't have the capacity at the city. We don't have a department that could operate and manage that. We would have to expand, the the television, the production studio and hire more people to do that. And that's not in budget.
I
So
guess my concern, Genevieve, would be that if we do put a structure up, right? And again, I have to look at the map as to how it's going to be laid out and what the developers want to do. And it's a permanent structure there, then it may limit us to doing events that are bigger, like Jake Owen, or even bigger than Jake Owen. So, you know, I'm a little bit of concern
Right.
about how that would then play out, you know?
well, and there has been, you know, public comment about, you know, continuing the Songwriter Festival down there to make sure that the new development could, you know, still accommodate festivals as well as our boat shows. The current concept does not have a back on the stage, so you would still have that visual straight through. You can see straight through. The roof is higher up, so no matter, I mean, you're not, unless you're like 20 feet tall or 30 feet tall, it's not going to block your sight, you know, so.
But it's going to take parking away, right? It'll take the parking?
No, because they added parking in the parking lot. So the brand new parking garage
Okay.
added spaces. So it
Okay.
it technically takes parking away down from City Dock. But that's a done deal. I mean, that they purposely rebuilt the parking garage to accommodate for the loss, to make it a green
Okay.
space down there.
Okay.
Even though it's
All right. Thank you.
yeah, even though it's not open discussion time, I will let Brian, because he's been sitting over here patiently with his hands up. And because he does work with the City Dock development and stuff, I'll let him come forward and have his comment.
Hey, everybody, how are you?
Oh, Brian.
I missed last month's meeting because I was on vacation, and I was a half an hour late this evening because we had an event to try to acquire this piece of land next to Altonia Park. So I apologize. But I've got a whole list of notes here I've been taking over the last hour and a half. One was the Bermudi statue right by the circle was valued at $300,000, that bronze, just as a point of reference. We've gotten several requests at City Hall to return the AIPPC meetings to live meetings. Just wanted to make you aware of that, although I have never seen 25 people show up to an Art in Public Places meeting live, and it's great to see people showing up virtually. I was curious. I wish we could have gotten the Stuart White mural redone before the grand opening of the garage, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But I just wanted to see if we can get that on the agenda, or if you've talked about that at all. What were you going to say, Genevieve?
Do you have something about the City Dock?
City Dock. Oh,
Yeah.
That's what you want me to speak to.
Yeah,
All right.
I brought you forward about the stage.
Oh, sorry, I don't have anything to say about the stage,
Okay.
except that it would be great to have one.
Okay. We haven't discussed the mural, and that would be an appropriation of the 10,000 that we have for repair and maintenance of our current stuff. So it's not public yet what the grand opening of the garage is, but there is a general date, possibly in June. So it probably wouldn't happen at this point because it's not on the agenda for this meeting, so we can't technically, get that ball rolling. We could probably discuss it next month if the commission wanted to put it on there. We would probably also have to get another bid from him because that is pretty old. The original repair, just to make sure. And it would have to be reassessed because I don't know if anything else has happened to it during construction and stuff. So we would have to have him come out and take a look at that. So we'd have to discuss it at May. It could probably happen like further later in the year, but Not on this timeline, I don't think so.
Do you have his contact? Maybe we could ask him to come down and take a look at it as soon as the garage is, open.
Yeah, he would definitely have to come and assess it, so.
But we ought to let him know that. Because the sooner we can get to it, the sooner the mural could be completed.
Yeah. Well, we would need a bid from him, and then we would have to vote on appropriating the
I
funds.
understand.
I have his contact information.
Good.
Yeah, Cynthia got the original bid from him when she was chair, so. Okay. Anything else about City Dock? Okay, so what I said is that I created the list to begin the conversation so we can have them come and discuss with us as a whole group what the plan is for public art and for the stage area. So I'll reach out and I'll see when they think that they can schedule something like that, when the appropriate time in the whole concept design phase. And I'll let you know, and we can get it on the agenda, hopefully.
Good.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to talk about?
What's
AIP
our schedule for next month? What are we dealing with next month?
So applications are being accepted again for another 5 days till the end of April. And then any applications that are fully completed and submitted by April 30th, we would review in May. We currently have one application, but I'm not going to talk about it because it's not on the agenda. And but we will discuss it in May. That application or the other applications that come will be sent out to all of you guys for review. And if you need other information from the applicant, we have that 30 days to acquire that information and expand on it before our review. It also gives us time to make sure that they're a city vendor and that they are all squared away financially. So if we do give them an award, that they can be paid. And that's all that's on May. And when Joe calls for agenda items, you could add something else on there if you just submit them to Joe.
When would that be? When would the final date for agenda items?
Usually the city has to post it the Friday before. So that's usually why I kind of ask for it at the beginning of that week. So it's about 3 weeks to pull together some other items if you want. And then I'll send out the call.
Okay. I just want to make sure I have it on the plan.
Okay, I'm confused because there's an assumption that the grants application process has already been finalized, but the city council has not weighed in on it. So why are we already using that timeline when we're really still within the public comment period and the city council hasn't seen the proposal yet? So we can't change it until they have approved it.
I technically haven't.
Isn't that?
Cynthia, I technically haven't changed anything. First of all, the application that we did receive was received after the agenda was posted. So it can't be on this meeting. So it'll be on the next meeting.
No, I'm just saying that
excuse
we
me.
haven't finalized the
I'm trying to tell
process.
you. I'm trying to tell you. Okay, let me answer. Secondly, the city council doesn't approve the changes. The rules approves it. It has been published online for over 30 days, and it will be published in the Capital Gazette effectively the 28th. And then it'll be in the Gazette for 30 days. And then at the end of that, it will go to rules for review that we have come to this conclusion. And we can, that is, I guess that would be on the May agenda too. The commission would vote on it.
So what I think Cynthia is saying, that this yearly grant funding calendar
Yep.
doesn't apply to anything that's come this month and next month because it's not in our rules.
So we can agree to whatever, and we agreed to a draft. But like I said, this application, the one
You
application. that we
agreed
have-
to a draft, but that's not binding on the commission to do that.
Well, listen, the one application that I have is going to be presented in May, okay? It isn't eligible to be presented at this meeting because it came in fully finished after the agenda was already out. I didn't change anything. You guys are confused.
The agenda came out on Sunday.
It was submitted on Friday, even though you didn't get it out of Joe's inbox until Sunday. But the full application still wasn't given to me before Sunday. It didn't come into our inbox before Sunday. So I really don't think. What's that?
It's just a game. I wish you wouldn't do this.
It's not a game, Jim. There is no game. It's rules and regulations and procedures. Like I said, if you want to go through the whole situation of amending an agenda and doing this last minute application thing, which is not transparent, because the agenda gets posted and it gives the public time to comment. If I submit a change to the agenda on Monday night, do you think the public has enough time between Monday night and Tuesday night to comment? Do you think we have enough time to verify whether they can be a city vendor or not?
So you want the agenda to be set the Monday before the
I
Tuesday?
don't-
I'm just trying to
No.
get your timeline.
Because it's not accurate. I don't want to amend the agenda because I want to give the public enough time to comment on things. I don't want to appear as we're sneaking things in last minute.
Genevieve,
No,
I
Jim.
know what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not asking you to amend an agenda. What I want to know is,
Cynthia was.
what is the
No.
date? What is the date that you want items submitted for consideration on the agenda, for putting on the
Joe?
agenda?
Joe asks everybody every
Is it-
time that you have it by noon on Friday so he can finalize the agenda and give it to Hillary. And Hillary posts it. Once it's posted, technically we shouldn't touch it because we need to give the public time to read the agenda and submit any public comments. We
And you
don't get
didn't-
them,
You
but
didn't receive this on before Friday or on Friday?
so because it didn't,
You
so
said
if
you did.
read the emails because it didn't go out of Joe's outbox to us and he apologized. He got a new laptop. It didn't fully function. It didn't go to you guys. But it was posted on Monday. And it was posted by the city. And when I get stuff after the agenda is posted, it's a process to go through and it doesn't give the public enough time to see that there's a change and to comment on it. I'm not playing a game. I am following rules and procedures and I'm making sure that we stay ethical and transparent. And I really, really would love it if the rest of you could follow the rules and ethics with us so we don't come into these issues of like, oh, it looks like they're sneaking something in last minute or we have preferential treatment for somebody because we want to push this thing through. There's nothing wrong with taking time. Every grant process has time. We just discussed an RFP that has like a very long monthly process, like multiple stages. And there is no reason that we cannot do that ourselves as Arts and Public Places. We need enough time to verify the information in the application. We can't continue to take things last minute and blow them through and be like, this is what we're doing. That's not proper procedure. So when we get these applications last minute, we have to have time to go through the application. And that means all of us. That means reading your emails and the attachments that are on the emails and knowing what we are coming to vote for And as well as having it go through all the procedures with the city does multiple jobs. So when I send this over to procurement to verify that they can be a city vendor, they have to verify all the information. They have to contact the state. They got to look at all these records and say, yes, we can verify that they can be a city vendor. This is a process. And we're going to put them into the system, and we give them a vendor number. And then we are allowed to give them money. And then it can come to us, as long as it meets our code, as long as it's something in our purview that we can actually give money to, because we do have regulations, instructions for that. Then it comes to us and we can discuss it as a commission. Is this something that we want to do? Is this something that benefits our city? Is this something that we need to invest in? Because most of our public art that we are investing in is going to be here for a long time. So we need to have these discussions. We need to do these steps. We can't just sit here and go, well, this is something that I want as XYZ and ward whatever rep, and I want you to accept this application now. It doesn't work. We have to do a process. So we give ourselves enough time, and the artist and the applicant enough time to make sure that all of the information is there that we need for us to consider. Then it comes to us and we can consider it. We can have good discussions. They can have a presentation. We have time to look at it and say, well, can you provide a visual for this? Can you show us what this would look like? Whatever it is that we think is missing from this presentation, it gives us time to have that. In the past.
May I speak, Jennifer?
My name is
Genevieve.
Jennifer, but
Yeah,
hold on a
Genevieve.
second. Hold on, please.
I just want to say, I
No.
think some of the confusion was the miscommunication with the agenda going out on Sunday. So we didn't really know what was on the agenda until Sunday evening. We usually expect it, on Friday. The other thing is, I wasn't referring to any specific application. I'm just wondering about when the timeline was changed, because earlier on March 2nd, you put out a timeline that we were going to go through this process, and that, we were going to vote today on the change in the grant application process. And we were going to have a 30-day public comment, and then it was going to go to the rules and to the city council. So I'm just wondering, when was the timeline? The timeline that you print? I know, but you printed in the timeline on March 2nd that was going to be the procedure. So when did that all change? And why is the word going out that it's been changed already when we haven't had a final vote, and the rules committee and the city council hasn't even seen it yet? So why are you making assumptions that it's already been finalized? Okay, I just wanted to finish, and thank you very much. I just see that there are some points of confusion that need to be cleared up. That's all. Okay.
What did I say we're voting on today? Because you just said, I said we were going to vote on something today. What was that?
Look at your March 2nd email.
I didn't
When
say
you
that.
You printed out
There's
the
nothing.
timeline. Read that.
It's April
Go back and read
25th.
it.
Cynthia, it's April 25th. I didn't say we were voting on anything today.
I would like to kind of interject here to possibly clear up this confusion.
And if it's not on the agenda, then we're not voting on it. I'm not going to interject things into the agenda. Go ahead.
So on.
Even if the commission votes to change the agenda?
Jim, let you speak. Thank you.
It was actually in our February meeting, we voted unanimously to approve the draft of the grants review schedule. So we held a vote on
The draft.
what is
The draft.
correct. And so what Genevieve said to us in March, that was basically sending forward to, because what we specifically voted to do was make the draft available on the website for public comment. And that is that the follow through was that. So we did vote on it already.
We voted on the draft, not on the final.
That's correct. We've held one vote. Yeah, I see what you're saying, but
We needed public input. We needed the public comment period before we had our final vote. And that was all specified on March 2nd. Reread the email.
Right. But I haven't called for a final vote. So I don't know why you're accusing me of trying to hold a final vote. I haven't called.
Well,
for a final vote. I haven't called for a final vote.
Well,
I
reread
haven't
your
called-
email. Reread your email.
Cynthia,
It's my understanding that it wasn't on the agenda to vote on tonight. that
It
we had other
wasn't.
Business to
there
do.
is
Am I
no
correct?
call. There is
So
no
if it's
call to
not
vote
on
on
the,
it.
hold on. If it's not on the agenda to be voted on tonight, then it'll be voted on another time. So I think we just need to be patient with one another. We only meet once a month. We've got a lot of stuff that needs to be talked about. There's quite a few members here that have a lot of things that they want to bring up, and they have a lot of questions that they bring up that takes a lot of time through these meetings. So I just think we need to be very patient, and I don't think anyone's trying to do anything or, pull the wool over anybody's eyes or, anything like that. If anything, Joe, I'd like to ask you, do you feel that you need more time with the agenda? Because, Friday before a weekend, before the meeting, having it in on a Friday in the middle of the day, maybe that's too much of a crunch. Maybe it needs to be in on the Wednesday, or maybe it needs to be in on the Tuesday before, because, we are a city government. I work in the federal government. We take time going through everything. There's lots of oversight. Occasionally you have to rush something through, but in what we're dealing with, these are not emergency FEMA situations. So Genevieve, thank you for all the work that you do on this. Joe, thank you very much for all that you're doing with our agenda and all of the notes and everything that goes on with our meetings. Thank you to everybody in this group that shows up every Tuesday as best as they can to get these things done. But we all need to work with one another, and the tone of some of these meetings, I think we need to, take a breath and be supportive of one another and realize that we're all trying to do the best we can. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you, Krista.
can I respond to the
Amen.
Go
question
ahead.
Krista asked?
That's what I want to hear.
And also thank you for the comments. I've been thinking about that actually while we've been talking, and the reason that, in my experience on the commission, the reason that we left the agenda so soon before the meeting, like it had to be posted the week before, but was because we were essentially leaving things open for last minute proposals.
Yep.
And so if we're moving to a place where that timeline is more stretched out, it is totally possible that I could move back the call for agenda items much earlier. I can send out stuff earlier, but it was kind of premised on sort of everything you just described, which is we're all volunteers, and we often have received proposals at the last minute that our process was always to turn right around and review them at the next meeting.
Right.
So, I'm comfortable moving everything back if that gives everybody a chance to review stuff, because in theory, we should have the materials for review on hand, like much earlier.
Yeah. And so,
Well, and also because as of February, we had decided that we're not doing things last minute anymore.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
And that it will
That's
take
right.
a little bit of, right. And it'll take a little, excuse me, and my voice sounds a little gruff right now. I've been sick for about 7 days or more. But my point being is that in February, we decided that it was going to take the community a little while longer because they were used to getting things quickly, last minute. They weren't used to having to go through some of the formalities that we now have. So that is going to take a little bit of time to get everyone through it. My thing is that I don't want to put anybody under any pressure on a Friday, whether that's you or, someone in the city. A lot of things can happen on the weekend. A lot of events are taking place, a lot of moving parts. So at Friday, by the middle of the day on a Friday, the start of a weekend, prior to our meeting. I mean, that just seems like it is a quick turnaround. And I do think that that was in good faith to do those last minute changes. So I'm open to what you guys want to do. I just do not want to have these tense discussions every single monthly meeting where we're, you know, kind of, you know, like throwing things at the chairman and accusing the chairman of things that she's not doing. I don't like the tone that's happening in our meetings, and I'm not sure what to do about it, to tell you the truth.
I think I would like to make a suggestion because I share your feelings about that. I think what Chris is saying is right. We should, but we should not have the ambiguity of it. We need to have a date, like 10 days, 5 days, 7 days in front of the meeting. So if we were to put it on the Monday before, you know, a week before the meeting, would that be sufficient time, or 2 weeks before the meeting? I just want us to fix a date and then agree to that. Not a date, but a, you know, 7 days in front of the meeting, whatever, that kind of thing.
So in
Is that-
February,
Joe, I have a suggestion. How about that everything gets submitted to you? We meet on a Tuesday. How about we all submit everything in on the Tuesday before our meeting, and then you can determine whether you want to put out a last call or not on maybe that Thursday, or, you know, I don't know. That could be between you and Genevieve as the chair. I don't know, but I think, you know, Tuesday to Tuesday maybe would be a good thing in our heads. We don't get our, you know, days of the week messed up. We know we meet on a Tuesday, having it in a week before, and then, you know, maybe putting out a last call kind of thing if you want to still do that. But, you know, we need to get past this so that we're not spending our time doing this over and over again at each meeting.
so in February, I suggested that we possibly do it on the 15th of the month. And then that also gives enough time, well, not enough time, but extra time for public comment too, because I made the point of saying that when we put it on a Friday, you know, not many people are going to be like, oh, you know, over the weekend, what's happening? And then it basically leaves Monday for them to put in public comment. Like, and Mondays are crazy. Like, we all know Mondays are crazy. So you're going back to work and you're not necessarily thinking, oh, I got to check the website to see what's on the agenda on Mondays. So the rule is that it doesn't have to be posted the week before. I believe it's 48 hours. It's like 48 hours or 24 hours before the meeting in order to accept public comment. It would be something that we would have to talk to Hillary about, if she could adjust the posting of the agenda time, or if that would just always stay as the Friday before, which is technically, you know, the city's operating 48 hours because they don't operate on the weekend. So these are things that we can talk about. If we want to have it posted earlier, we can ask Hillary if that's a possibility, if she can post it earlier, but also if Joe can he can pick maybe the Tuesday before, or the 2 Tuesdays before, or the 15th, or, you know, that's what the commission to decide, because those agenda items, those agenda items are coming from all of us. So when is everybody comfortable knowing? And then also, we would have to have enough time to review the applications that have come in and before putting them on the agenda. So if we get things that aren't thoroughly filled out or not approved as a city vendor yet, just know that even though the application has come in, that I might not be able to put it on the agenda too. So, you know, I don't think there's a perfect scenario is basically what I'm saying. So without the timeline, without the deadlines. So go ahead, Joe.
For me, that's fine. And you're right. I mean, that's the piece of it, is like when the city posts it is a different matter from when we would consider the agenda closed, really. I'm comfortable either way. If we want to say a week before, if we want to set a specific date of the month, like either one of those seems, we could easily get into that routine. It's just a matter of changing it from what we've done in the past.
And can I ask a question? This is Krista.
on,
Regarding new
Krista.
business.
Hold on,
things-
Krista.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let Jim speak.
What's that? Okay, sorry.
Oh, I apologize. I just think I'd like to make a motion that we set the date for submission of applications on the 15th. Is that what people want to do?
You mean agenda items?
Well,
It would be all agenda items.
All
all
agenda.
agenda items, including applications. Will I give everybody enough time to consider it? So I'll make a motion that we set our new deadline of the 15th of the month for the following meeting. And then if there are questions or issues or whatever, we have a couple days to argue about it.
So there's a motion on the floor that all agenda items are due to Joe by the 15th of the month. Is there a second?
Oh, well, I tried.
Okay, do we want to say the Tuesday before our meeting? Agenda items have to be in? Do we make that motion? Should I put a motion on the floor that all agenda items are due the Tuesday? So 1 week,
1 week.
prior, 1 week prior to our meeting.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. David,
Figured you call me first. Aye.
Joe, I, Jim,
Aye.
Cynthia,
I have one question. When did the draft?
We can't during the vote.
Not
It's
during
proper
votes.
procedures. We can't.
Barbara,
Aye.
Krista,
Aye.
Genevieve.
Aye.
Motion passes.
When
Okay.
did the draft RFP come in? Because that was such a short period of time to really review it. What can we have these this paperwork sent out on a timely basis so that we have time to review it? Perhaps the same time frame, but when you send something out and we need to prepare for the meeting, let's try to get at least, I don't know, 48 hours. Would that be fair to get things sent out so that we can properly read the RFP and other items very thoroughly?
Can I respond to that? Do you mind?
Go ahead, Joe.
Because that just in this case, because the work that Genevieve was doing to get the Arts Council on board, that RFP actually came in today, basically. So there was no opportunity. So the choice was
Okay.
either send it out at the last minute or talk about it next month.
Okay, just curious. But
Mhm.
if we could try to improve that to get things out on a more timely fashion, so we have time to review things.
Last month was excellent, by the way, Joe. You got, the agenda and all the pieces.
I know, and that
You
yes,
probably
and then
had to work
I
overtime
changed.
that night.
Then I changed my technology, and it all went south.
I've been there. I did that this week, so I had the same frustration. And it is frustrating. But thank you. And I'm sorry, Genevieve, if you're upset with anything I might have said. I meant to make it clear that my question was, when would we like to set the date? We've now done that. And we have an agreement that we'll get everything in by the Tuesday before the board meeting, the commission meeting. And we'll have our copies, hopefully, shortly thereafter. I don't know what date that would be. I guess Friday, or we would have everything.
Yeah,
by
so
Friday.
it would still be Friday because that's what our timeline is with the city at this point, unless boards and commissions office is willing to change that. That would have to be a conversation with Valerie to find out if.
Maybe we could get it out on Thursday and hopefully that'll work for them.
Yeah. Can I circle back? I feel like Krista had another question about
Yeah.
new business on the agenda or minutes or something. I just want to
Yeah.
make sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that she gets her time. Yeah, go ahead, Krista.
Yeah, I did have a question about new business. I want to make sure that I understand how it's being used, because my thought, and maybe this is the wrong way of thinking, but if we have the agenda and everything's set in the agenda, but there is room for us to discuss new business at each, monthly meeting, that would also be an opportunity to bring something up that did not hit the agenda, correct? That wasn't listed on the agenda.
No, so old business is things that we've discussed in previous meetings would fall under old business.
I know that.
Okay. Yeah.
I know that.
And so new business is anything that hasn't been discussed yet. And normally it's our voting line items. Open discussion is when you could add things to it, but it can't be.
There you go. That's the.
Yeah. So open discussion, you can add things, but it wouldn't be adding in a spending vote or something that would require public comment. Yeah.
Right. But it could be bringing up a topic that didn't make it to the agenda.
Correct. Yes.
Correct. Okay. I just wanted, like, in other words, giving everybody a little wiggle room if they did want to bring something up that was not, they didn't catch the agenda early enough or something came up.
Right. And, or if
Okay.
something came in last minute, if like you just found out that, something is happening or whatever, then that would be the time during open discussion to talk about it.
Open discussion. Okay.
David?
Thank you for clarification.
Lovely conversation, but I have to leave.
You want to leave
So
work?
I was,
They kicking you out?
partly because I can't hear everything, and kind of, sort of, but
That's fine. I've covered everything on my list. Does anybody else have anything that they want to talk about? Do we have a motion?
I have one thing that I
go
want
ahead.
to bring. I do have something that I guess you'd say this is
Okay.
open business.
Okay. Thank you, David.
And I
We'll
don't
see you.
know. What was that?
David's leaving. He's got to go.
Hello?
But go ahead, Krista.
Oh, okay. Bye, David. Bye, David. One of the things that came up recently for me was in chatting with a restaurant owner who just did an addition to their restaurant, and they are a restaurant that does support local artists, and they do put up artwork inside the restaurant. The art is for a fee. The owner takes, I think this particular owner only takes 10% of the total of the art that they sell. And so they're going to start looking for more artists. They work with 3 right now. They're going to, expand that. And so that person and I started chatting, and afterwards it got me wondering, there are other restaurants in our area. I think Paul's Homewood Cafe. I know Main and Market. There's many others that do support local artists and put the artwork in the restaurant for their patrons to buy. And I just wondered, even though we are considered art in public places, I just wondered if this was something that we wanted to encourage or, create a little bit of a dialogue with some of the restaurants and businesses in the area that, might want to, see if there's any kind of partnership or a way for us to encourage more of that in the community to support the artists that, do framed work. So I wondered what your thoughts were on that. Is that something that we don't get involved with at all because it's between a restaurant or a real estate office building or what have you? Or is that something that we could try to promote for the local artists? What are your thoughts on that?
So we can talk about showings. We can help promote showings, even if they're not on city property. That was something that was defined by legal before. We can promote But as far as us working in conjunction with it and procuring, there are issues because it is private property and it's
Because
not,
it's private, right?
yeah, and it's not technically, like the public couldn't just walk in to look at the art, and like stand
Mhm.
next to the booths while people are, trying to eat. So it creates this kind of like weird type of situation, as well as insurance.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
As well as insurance aspects of it. So like, when we bring art into City Hall or into Pip Moyer, it falls under the entity because it's a city property. And we have balances and checks in place as well as protections, because it's city property. We own the property. But when we start, talking about us doing things in other people's private property, it gets kind of muddy with who's the legal responsibility if something happens, or vice versa. But if there is somebody having an art showing and they want to share it with us, and they want us to help get the word out, then that is something that we could do.
So they could put it, so this owner could, let's say that he gets 2 more artists and he now has a total of 5 artists that he's working with. That owner could actually take some pictures, send it to our page, and we could promote it on our Facebook page or something like that.
We can repost it.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Or like if that person is looking for art, if that wouldn't be something we would do, we wouldn't say, hey, local artists, this particular ABC restaurant is looking for artwork for their new edition of their restaurant. If you're interested, get in touch with, or what have you. Like, would that be something we would do, or we wouldn't do that?
Well, we wouldn't generate the call for artists from us,
Gotcha.
but we,
Okay.
we could repost their call. So if they have a call for artists,
Because what my thought was, just as like we have the directory of where the art is in the city, and we keep tabs of where we're putting the art up in the murals and things like that. My thought was, if there was a way that we could have sort of like the Friends of Art in Public Places, that we had a listing for the artists of which restaurants in the area were partners, where partners with artists show their work. So like, maybe doing like a little article or something on that, and kind of promoting the fact that we do have restaurants in the area that are promoting our local artists. So in other words, it would be in support of the local artists, but having some sort of directory for those particular restaurants that do it. But I guess that's not something we would do. Is that correct?
no, because it's not necessarily within our
Okay.
purview. Like, we'd have to have somebody
Gotcha.
generate copy and that kind of stuff. But more than happy to repost things that are already generated. It could be something, Crystal, that you could like reach out to Naptown Scoop, or to Rick Hutzel or somebody, and see if they're interested in a public interest story like that. And
I just think it would be
Yeah.
really, really cool if each one of our wards, if we do have restaurants or places of business that are promoting the artists, that each one of us as commissioners could take a couple pictures and say, hey, check this out, in Ward 5, Grapes Wine Bar is showing the work of this artist, or Ward 1 is showing the work at this particular restaurant of this artist, that kind of thing, and just sort of do it that way, where we're kind of getting the wards involved with regards to promoting the businesses who are promoting our artwork or music, somebody who's going to perform somewhere, that kind of thing.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So as your ward rep, that is basically in your purview of promoting art in your ward, and also, seeking out opportunities for artists and performing art and visual art in your ward. So if you want to share that with everybody, you can most definitely do so. I know that you're active on Facebook. If you tag the Arts in Public Places Facebook page, then I know that you posted on it. I honestly, I don't,
got it.
I don't keep up with everybody's Facebook pages. So I don't know. And some people like Joe doesn't have a Facebook page. So, but if you want it to be reposted,
Yeah, that was something.
Just tag
Yeah,
us.
that was something I was thinking that maybe I could do for outreach for us, is maybe to, if anyone had a particular restaurant that's in your ward that you're aware of that they are promoting, maybe I could, pop over and and go take some pics of some of that artwork or something like that and promote it that way. And might be a way to give some visibility to us and give some visibility to the the wards and to the artists, and also encourage other restaurants to join in.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would honestly recommend that you reach out to Ryan Snedden from Naptown Scoop, because he does do
Okay.
he does a list of performing arts, like for the whole weekend. He does the
Mhm.
schedule, and it's very long.
right.
It's kind of like what
Bridget does it too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bridget does it, but it's kind of like what Bay Weekly used to do. They'd have the whole lineup in there, but he does it, and it's a newsletter. It's an online newsletter that he sends out.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that may be something that you could ask him if he would be interested in, doing a calendar. If you procured the calendar for him, I'm sure he'd probably repost it, but I don't want to speak for him. I guess I shouldn't have, but
Yeah, and I'm not, I just might want to do it informally too. And just, but that's good. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much. Thanks,
Yep.
everybody.
Thanks, Krista, for supporting art in your ward. I appreciate you. Okay. Anybody else?
You're gonna
Are you
get a nice,
sure?
nice one.
Okay. Cynthia's hand is up.
Yeah, okay, Caliente Grill. Just in referencing to exactly what Chris was talking about, they're opening a gallery in their space. It's a beautiful space. They're working along with Jovenes Artistas at the Maryland Hall, and they're having on May 4th a reception. So Caliente Grill, great food, great space for the young artists to show their art. So try to attend.
Awesome. Thanks, Cynthia.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jim.
And don't forget the sculpture garden that we help support at the Bush Library. It'll be there through the end of the summer, and we found out that kids really loved it. So hopefully you'll get to go over there and see it. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Thanks.
Anything else?
Nope. Let's go home.
Is there a
Motion to
motion?
adjourn.
Yeah, I second the
I
motion.
make a
to adjourn.
motion that we call it a night.
Yeah.
Everyone in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Anybody want to stick around? I got no plans. All right. Thank you, everybody.